in this video you're going to learn about route manipulation. You will need to understand on your architecture exam at least the basics of route filtering, redistribution, and understanding how summarization works. Any of these are fair game on the architecture exam. So let's go ahead and dig into each one of these, understanding you may already know these from your previous studies. But if you feel like you're weak in any one of these areas, this video is definitely worth watching because you will be asked about these topics. So let's go ahead and begin with summarization.
It reduces the number of entries in a router's routing table. That eats up less memory, and also CPU, because it reduces the number of network advertisements that need to be sent. And that can obviously increase convergence time as well. Here's a perfect example. Let's say we're looking at the routing table of a core router, and it knows about all the branch offices. And let's say there are 255 branch offices, and each are allotted a /24, and they're assigned a 192.168 x.0/24 network. Now, sure, the core router has individual entries for all of these routes and knows how to reach all of them through separate interfaces or tunnels. But all these routes do not need to be passed individually throughout the network onto a neighbor through a route advertisement. They can be summarized using one summary route, 192.168.00/16. So as you can see, using summarization, we're saving a lot of memory and CPU by simply summarizing all of these routes into one single route.
So that's summarization in a nutshell. The next topic we want to cover is route filtering. Let's go ahead and discuss this topic. So let's draw out this concept of route filtering just to make sure we understand it before we actually program it. So let's say we have two routers, and this router has 4 routes in its routing table. Now let's say this router has 2 other EIGRP neighbors as well, and he intends to send all 4 routes to these 2 neighbors, and he wants them to know about all of those routes. Now let's say in this environment that we only want 2 of these routes to be known over this path, and that we do not want the router on the other end of this path to know about any of the other routes. What we need to do is we actually need to filter, and EIGRP allows us to filter so that one router only knows 2 routes and that the other 2 routers know all 4. EIGRP filtering allows us to do that. Now we can put a filter on this router here and deny one of those routes to say, you know what, we don't want to know about that route, and filter that out as well. So that's what we have for route filtering. The next topic we want to discuss in this video, and it's the final topic, is redistribution. Let's go ahead and cover this at a high level, but at a level at least granular enough so that if you do get asked in your architecture exam, understanding it's not a highly technical exam when it comes to asking you about coding or specific commands, but you will have to understand how to answer questions about redistribution at the level you're going to learn in this next segment. So let's go ahead and dig into redistribution.
Now let's just do a quick review of redistribution. Let's say we have 3 routers that are connected, and in the middle router is connected to one router via OSPF and the other router via EIGRP. The EIGRP router knows of routes 1 and 2, and the OSPF router knows of routes 3 and 4, and the middle router, because it's running routing protocols with both, is aware of all 4 routes. But let's say we want the EIGRP router to learn routes 3 and 4, and we want the OSPF router to learn routes 1 and 2. What we would need to do is redistribute one routing protocol into the other. So we would redistribute OSPF routes into EIGRP, and then that router would learn routes 3 and 4, and then redistribute EIGRP routes into OSPF, and the other router would learn route 1 and 2. Now that being said, maybe you don't want to redistribute all of your routes. Redistribution can be filtered. So let's say we just wanted to filter out one of those routes and we only wanted to share route 3. You can do that. Redistribution also allows you to tag routes. So if you wanted to tag a route, let's say tag 100, it would be known by that router as 100, and let's say the other routes 3 and 4 were tagged as 50. Then if these routes are shared throughout the network in the OSPF area, they would keep these tags and they would be aware of who is tagged as what. Now this could become important downstream. Let's say you had a router with a rule that said, I am only going to allow routes with a tag of 50. I'm going to deny anything with a tag of 100. That allows you to filter routes not based on subnet or prefix, but simply on tag. So redistribution can be pretty powerful in managing your network.
So here's what you've learned. You've learned about route manipulation. We've covered summarization, route filtering, and redistribution. All of these are fair game on the architecture exam. And I'm confident now that you've watched this video, there shouldn't be too many surprises in these areas for you. So I wish you the best of luck.